Hi Rykros gaming fans, and welcome back to the Tidewall Rampart build. We're working on the Gunrig right now, and we're working on getting it magnetized. I wanted to try to get the base of the actual gun mount to be able to swivel. This one in particular here, and I also wanted to make sure that my railguns could pivot where they're located at. And that was all pretty easy, except for I had to really come up with some unique ways to do things because I did something very unique to mine that kind of complicated things. So first, we'll just kind of show you the basics of what I did. First things first is I decided to go with the easy thing, and we decided we were going to mount the railguns on this particular side, which is the actual side that you see on the cover of the box. And all I did was I used the pre-existing hole. I had to sand it down a little flatter so it could fit correctly, and I had to drill out the hole just a little bit more, but I believe this is a 3mm magnet to fit perfect after that. And it's nice and flat and flush. And all I did for this side is I just cut a piece of steel flashing out and glued it in place, and now this piece fits right in here and snaps into place, and it can pivot on its own and still hold its weight really well. As you can see, it's still a little tough to pull off, which is good because I didn't want it to be too loose in case I wanted to point it up. Didn't want them to fall down. Alright, so this side is complete. Now I wanted to make sure that the pieces together, as you can see here, they fit together. They slide in place here. And of course, I could simply just do the same thing as before by adding a magnet and some steel flashing to the bottom piece of this. But instead, I'm doing something very unique, and I needed an open space in the middle. So what I did is I took a steel washer, instead glued it in place, tried to eyeball it up as best as possible. I filled this little area with some epoxy putty, some 2-part epoxy putty. You guys will probably be able to use green stuff for this. And I mounted 2 magnets in it. Now, if you can see, the magnets are just barely sticking out because I wanted to make sure they had a good connection, and also lifted up this cap off of the model, the base of the model, a little bit so it can swivel a little easier. And quite simply, this just snaps right on in place and swivels nice and easy. So combined, these 2 items, it's a bit of a tight fit, so I'm just gonna have to model it. We'll sit like this, this will turn, and this will turn. Now, for the unique thing that I decided to do, I decided to take the power shield generator and I wanted to make it glow blue. So I was going to use an LED. Well, in order to accomplish this, I decided I was going to actually mount the LED on the hole that's on the back of this, and I needed to put in holes around the edges, and this is what I did. It looks like a mess because it was difficult to do. I had to drill out the hole a little bit more so an LED could fit in there, and this is my blue LED, and as you can see, it'll slide right in once I get it all wired up and mounted. And in order for it to glow, I took a piece of paper clip that I bent a little L into, and I heated it up on the stove, put it in here, and turned it sideways so it could poke in, and I eventually made little holes. 3 little holes. Let's see if you guys can see it once I adjust the light. There's one there, one there, one there, and that's it. So now we've got 3 particular areas for the light to come out and shine through. And I made sure that the light would come out here, here, and here, so it could be seen the best. Now, in order for us to be able to have it swivel, yet still not twist up the wires and make sure I've got access to the battery pack, I went ahead and drilled a little hole through here while having it mounted onto the bottom of these, which provided me a nice drilled hole here. And the wires are going to simply go right through all 3 of those pieces, and the battery pack is going to be located in here. Now, all I did is I took an old tea candle light and I broke it all apart, and this is what I get. Sort of. The T-candle light is normally mounted in here like so. Like that. And there's a bit of a little switch, which I've taken out, that goes in this area here. And this is your on-off switch. Now I've been through a few of these and have torn up quite a few. But what I did was I took the battery pack, trimmed it all up, took what I needed, made sure that it was nice and small and that I could still access the battery on the inside. And I wanted to make sure that I could fit, once this is all put together, that I could fit the battery pack inside and still be able to access it later. So with a little tweaking, this thing somehow, did it earlier, can slide right in there. So anytime I need to replace the battery, just give it a little wiggle, give it a little shake, maybe get a pencil or something to help bring it down, and I was able to bring it back out, and then that way I can replace the battery. Now I plan on most likely putting the power switch most likely on the back side here, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to drill a little hole, and I'm going to use this button. Is probably not going to actually stick out, and I'm probably going to paint it over a different color too, but I'll be able to access this button by simply pressing in like a paper clip or something like that in order to turn on the light. And this way it doesn't snag on anything, and it doesn't accidentally turn on while in the case and run the battery down. And yeah, that's basically it. Now it's just a matter of me tearing apart a third T-candle light so I can get a working power switch that doesn't fall apart on me, and wiring the LEDs, or LED, single LED, the power switch, and the battery pack all together, and then gluing it all together. It's going to take a little bit of pre-painting to do because I wanted to make sure to paint a little bit under it so you can see under it, and under here too, because it's going to backlight, because it's going to stick out like this, backlight blue under there. And of course you've got the top pieces that fit in here. They're nice and small and unique that you're not going to be able to paint completely without painting it now and then gluing it on later. And that is how you do it. Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll check back in later and we'll have everything mounted up and glued together, and hopefully at least the very little bit of paint needed in order to put it together, and then of course I'll paint all the rest later. Here we are with our predominantly finished gun rig, and in this particular spot all we've done is we've kind of wired everything together, glued together what we needed to, painted what we needed to before we assembled the entire thing. So here we are, we have everything put together. I've pre-glued some of it ahead of time. As you can see here, this is still magnetized and it slides in place. Battery pack located here in the base. Complete free movement here. I went ahead and glued the switch here, and I actually ended up going through, this is my 5th switch. I went through 3 T-candle light switches for a variety of reasons, including being melted by the soldering gun and a variety of other things. I went and took apart a toy and grabbed the switch out of it, and it turns out it didn't click on and stay on, so ended up with this little switch here from some random thing that I found, and finally I got it to work. Now on the other end of that switch is the LED. The LED is just going to slide right in here, fold the wires down. Wires are going to go through this little hole down here, and the whole thing is going to be put back together over here and glued into place, and then it'll all be together. And I'll check back here in just a moment and show you what it looks like completely assembled. Alright, here we go. We've finally got it all glued together. In fact, it's freshly glued together. It's actually still drying. I don't have the magnets in place for the base, so I'm going to have to kind of hold it here. As you can see, we still pivot just fine and dandy here. And we actually are able to swivel it on its base. And look at that. turn down the lights a little bit so that'll come in nice and clear. Kind of show it to you in the shadow. Whoops. And that's what it looks like. Overall, quite impressed with it myself. And one thing I did notice is my switch is pretty flimsy and floppy. Quite often, if I mess with it, as you can see, I'll get it to blink and stuff. So, it's just for aesthetic appeal anyway, so I'm not too worried if this switch works great. I'm not going to be using it all the time, just anytime I wanted to display it. So, here we go. Turn it to where you can see the switch. Off. On-ish. There we go. Back on. Now, here is the whole thing by itself. As you can see, it swivels. You can probably see deep down in here. I'm not exactly sure if you can. You might be able to just glance and see, maybe, that there are the wires in there. You might be able to catch a glimpse of the washer, the wires, everything else. Of course, as you can guess, I still have plenty to paint on it still. It's going to be a long time till I'm done with this project altogether. But overall, I'm really happy and satisfied with how this is turning out. So we'll check back in with you later, and we'll set it up with some minis on it, and then everybody can see the actual size of it. And that's it. Alright, Talva.